Welcome back to Diaries. This is Lighting Literacy. I'm Ashley Valencia Pate, and today I'm going to talk about qualifying exams. So today is my qualifying exam, part 1. So I have the 2 proctored questions that I will be writing today, and then I have 2 more that will be take home, and I get to spend a little more time with them and then turn them in by a predetermined date. Then my committee will look at them, use a rubric to score, make sure that I am ready to move forward in my doctoral program. And then if I pass, then I will be an official doctoral candidate, which is what I've been working for the last 3 years. This is a lot of pressure, to be honest. I feel super nervous. I know that I've worked really hard, and I know that I have done my best to retain what I can. But I think that imposter syndrome is just a normal part of being a doc student, or really being in this world of academia. Maybe it's just me, maybe other people don't struggle with that, but I always feel like I never want to be the smartest person in the room because I have so much to learn. And I've surrounded myself with some really amazing scholars that just leave me flabbergasted all the time by how their minds work. And I feel like the amount of respect I have for my committee makes me want to do really well on this and shine, which is making me nervous and worried that I won't. So hopefully the first one goes well. It's in 2 different parts. Today I'll write 1 in the morning and then 1 in the afternoon, 2 different questions. References need to be included, but I don't have to have citations like perfect or a reference list. And I don't know what the 2 questions are going to be. So I used Canva, and I made a presentation that had my favorite theorist, my little areas where I knew I needed to make sure I had a clear definition of that term. And then I downloaded it into GoodNotes and just started looping through GoodNotes. See, I'm nervous, and I'm trying to keep this as honest as possible because the format of Doc Diaries is supposed to be just this conversation with myself and you, and I don't want it to seem super polished because that's not what a diary is, at least not for me. So I will keep you guys updated, and I'll be back after my first question to kind of report on how it went. So we'll see. Okay, the irony is not lost on me that I would do something a little ridiculous. I just finished my first question, and I am now in Eastern Standard Time. I was really fortunate. My husband had to move us to Florida because of his job, but I was able to stay in my doctoral program because I could finish the rest of the classes online. And so I was thinking my time zone when they said what time to stop at, and it was actually Central Standard Time, so I actually had an hour left whenever I thought I was supposed to be done. But I went ahead and submitted it because I am kind of the point of view that the longer you stare at something, the more problems you're going to see in it. It's just like if you look in the mirror and you start noticing all the imperfections in your skin, or you start seeing like every single blackhead that's on your nose that no one else can see during the day, that you don't even notice at first glance. Or like Eliza Schlesinger has this wonderful comedy bit about how when you put your makeup on, if you're waiting on a date for too long, then you end up adding more stuff and you end up covered in glitter that you don't actually need. That's kind of how I approach my writing. So I answered the question. I tried to picture my flashcards, my notes. This is Jack, by the way. And I really hope that I did well. I don't know. I think that I could have either done really well or I misunderstood the question and answered it not at all correctly. I was grateful that I could see my Turnitin report, and that was of course fine. At first I got a little alarmed because it said 7% similar, but it was just the prompt, and then the rest of it was original thinking, which is what you want. I mean, really anything when you are citing other people's research under like 30% is good, but I personally like to stay below 15% because I hold myself to that standard. I want my words to shine as much as possible and to interpret other people. So I have a little lunch break, and then question 2 of the 4, I did find out, I got a little clarification that you're scored holistically across the 4 responses. So you'll get feedback on each question's answer, but to pass, you just have to hit all the marks overall, which was nice because I am more confident in my take-home ones where I can sit with it and like have sources and organize all of that stuff a little better than when you do it on the fly. But I guess I should have more confidence because I did pull in research, I pulled in text from multiple classes. I think that's what they probably want to see, is make sure that you paid attention in more than just one class. But I didn't even touch anything that I was unsure of or felt little like, I know they might like to hear about this theorist, but I still don't really understand all of them. So I left him out, but he'll be okay. He's pretty famous. So that is part 2 of this little adventure. I think that finishing my qualifying exam for at least the high pressure one of the proctored exam is the same feeling that I get whenever I pull cookies out of the oven and I get like a really ooey gooey center of it and you just feel warm and content. And that's what I'm feeling right now. I am, of course, a little paranoid and worried that I didn't do as well as I would want, or that maybe I didn't answer the questions fully, or I did outline and break them down, but I think it's just a paranoia because I care so much about this. Like I said earlier with the first question, I did use all of my time on the second one. I paced myself. I did get on a little bit of a tirade. It was a diversity and equity in education question and something that I deeply care about, which makes sense because I'm in a PhD program for language, literacy, and culture. And if you care about those 3 things and the relationship between those 3 things in society, and you're going to be angry in the core of yourself at the lack of diversity, the lack of representation, and the war on certain populations within literature. Like, I've interviewed a librarian who's had to pull books that basically are being pulled because they have an LGBTQ character in them, or books that are being pulled because they have minority characters in them, and there might be one instance of something that makes someone uncomfortable, but we should be uncomfortable with history. That's how we know to not do those horrific things again, is knowing that they're awful and sitting in it. But I digress. It feels really good to be done, and now I get to go play with my children, and I will receive my other 2 questions. And then once I receive those, I get about a week on each question, but luckily we have spring break, so I get a little bonus time to work on them. But my spring break and my children's spring break are not on the same week, so I'm going to use my college spring break to work on my questions, and that way I can focus on my children on that other one. So that's another entire episode of Doc Diaries, is navigating a PhD program with 3 children. But for today, we're done. We're going to go enjoy the sunshine.